The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined by Jeremy Greco for our very first series-ending episode. I don't know how else to put it, Jeremy. Like, it's just weird to actually be talking about baseball after it happened.
I got so in the habit of following the WBC, and I cared about Team Italy. And I wanted Team Italy to win, but it was not like watching the Royals for me.
No,
I know players, a lot of the players will say that the WBC is bigger and means more to them than even the World Series, but that's not my experience as a Royals fan. I think it could be if cared more about nationality. I've been following the Royals for decades, longer than the WBC has existed, and it only happens every few years. I don't know. And it's also been, I don't know, it feels kind of weird because I got used to how baseball was played in the WBC, where the pitchers were still kind of working through some stuff and the hitters were mostly ready to go. And now the pitchers are ready to go at the beginning of the year, and the hitters are like, oh, crap, we have to, I'm not going to get so many hanging breaking balls anymore. So the offense, the World Baseball Classic has just played so differently that I'm having to kind of readjust my expectations. So when I see the Royals win 4-1 today, I'm like, come on, where's the offense?
Well, that is something that Royals fans have been asking themselves over the past 3 games. I would say we'll talk a little bit about that in today's episode. We are recording this about an hour after the last pitch between the Royals and the Atlanta Braves in the season opening series between the two. Royals did drop that series. They dropped 2 out of the 3 games, but they did pull out the series finale. We'll talk about that later on. But just a reminder, if you want the latest on all the Royals, make sure you go check out RoyalsReview.com. You got the game threads over there, the game recaps. If you can't watch the game or listen to it, the best spot to stay informed is at RoyalsReview.com. All right, Jeremy, where do we even want to start with this?
Gosh, Jacob, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that question. I came up with a rundown, and I'm like, which one of these things should we talk about first?
Because they're all viable. They're all kind of equally important, I would say.
I'm gonna throw this at you. You wanted to talk about Mason Miller's intro act performance thing. You sent me a video, and I don't understand why videos can't capture this stuff better. I watched that intro and I'm like, okay, I know that there's lights flashing and there's loud music playing, but I can't really hear the music. I can't feel the music. The lights don't seem as impressive as I'm sure they do in stadium. I don't understand why that's true of cell phone cameras, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say, because I kind of looked at that and went, yup. That's a closer entrance, all right.
So my first watch of that was from John Boy Media. They had the actual broadcast angle of it. Maybe that's what I should have sent to you. It does. On the whole camera thing, that's something that I've asked myself, for nearly a decade now. Taking photos with the Navy. It's wow, this is this big grandiose thing. This thing shakes my body. Why can't I capture that in a photo? And I just don't know. It's hard. It's not an impossible thing, because some people have done it. I'm just not quite talented enough to do that. Now, if you've missed it, Mason Miller, he's the closer for the Padres right now. San Diego acquired him back at the last trade deadline with the Sacramento Athletics. And
Or as
he
MLB
had,
would prefer you call them, the Athletics. They're
yes,
just nomads.
well, it's also because they can't secure trademarks to any one location. I'm pretty sure they couldn't even get a trademark to Kansas City Athletics right now.
Ugh.
But anywho's, Miller's trotting out there to the mound in the bottom of the ninth in a save situation, and he's walking out to Corns blind. Like, that is, growing up in the mid to late 2000s, that was kind of like the mosh pit song. Like, that was gets everyone riled up, really gets your nerves on edge. And I thought it was a great presentation. I really did. But I can understand what you're saying, Jeremy, about like, oh well, from the 400 section, it's not as impressive. It's not as bone rattling, if you will.
I don't have any recollection of ever hearing that song before either.
Really?
So it doesn't have any emotional weight for me.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, I was not a metalhead in my youth. I kind of grew into it a little bit, but even now, I primarily, when I listen to metal, it's new metal.
Yeah.
Which some people would tell you isn't real metal. I don't care, because that's just the music I like to listen to, whether it's real metal or not.
Exactly. So go look it up on social media. I found it very entertaining, but I know that a lot of people don't like the closer entrances, right? Like, they think like, okay, well, this isn't Hall of Famer Hoffman, or this isn't Hall of Famer Mariano Rivera coming out. Like, why are we giving all these people entrances?
Was Trevor Hoffman a Hall of Famer when they started doing the entrances? I don't think he was, because I'm pretty sure you're not a Hall of Famer while you're still playing.
True.
And I gotta say that no closer had ever been voted to the Hall of Fame when Trevor Hoffman was pitching. There are still, as far as I'm aware, there are 3: Trevor Hoffman, Billy Wagner, and Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, as far as I can recall.
I think Dennis Eckersley is in the Hall of Fame, but he did some starting.
Yep.
Is Bruce Sutter in the Hall of Fame? I don't remember.
I couldn't tell you.
I think he's one of those guys that people are like, he should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not. So yeah, you can miss me with like, let's get excited about things. My big complaint about the closer entrances is that I feel like everybody has the same lights flashing program for every closer, and I would like to see some uniqueness happening there.
Okay.
Give it a little personality. Like, to me, the platonic ideal of the closer entrance is playing Wild Thing when Rick Vaughn walks onto the field, right? That song is him. He is that song. And I don't hate the flashing lights. I think that's a cool, interesting addition now that you could do it. You couldn't do that 30 years ago. The lights wouldn't allow for it. But if you're going to do it in an interesting way. Don't just flash the lights because, we can flash, like you're flipping the switch. You're not the cheat doing a rave in Strong Bad's basement, okay?
I will say that the Royals fandom wanted to flip the switch, turn this team on and off again after they saw Carlos Estevez come out and pitch.
I guess that's where we got to go next. That's my bad.
It is. We gotta talk about it, man. Even though we didn't see the Dominican come out and pitch the 9th inning in the series finale, which was a good thing, I will say. I will speak for myself when I say I was very nervous seeing Carlos Estevez come out in that situation, leading by 2, and lo and behold, he only got 1 out and gave up 6 earned runs.
I don't think anyone who is a member of the Royals or has followed the Royals through spring training at all wasn't nervous about that. I think it was reasonable to be nervous about that. I know a lot of people are ready to fire manager Matt Quatrero over it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And Honey has told me. She told me this last night. She told me this today when I was talking about it earlier. Carlos Estevez was just having a rough day. Well, the issue is Carlos Estevez has had a rough calendar year of baseball in 2026. Like, this has been a recurring issue, and we just saw how bad it can impact the win-loss column on Saturday night.
What I want to say in defense of Matt Quatrero, because that's one of my favorite things to do.
Right.
Because I think he's a good manager, is I understand why he had Carlos Estevez attempt to close the game against Atlanta. Even though he's said, he and Carlos Estevez both admitted in interviews that they knew that Carlos was not right yet. that he was not in full regular season pitching form. Matt Quatraro is not just managing numbers and machines. He is managing people. And you don't want to just yank that closer's job away from Carlos Estevez while you think, because I think there's a couple assumptions coming here. First of all, that Carlos Estevez will get to regular season pitching form. I think there's an assumption that that will happen. And so you go, well, what do we do until then? And for the answer, and this is the answer that Matt Quatraro is giving now, is pitch in low leverage until he gets there. But the last time Estevez had pitched was Tuesday in an exhibition game against the Rangers, where his velocity was still bad, still didn't have a lot of control, but he struck out 3, didn't give up a run. And so as a manager of people, human beings, not just machines and numbers, I think Matt Quatraro looked at that and said, well, let's see if he can. I see him in this exhibition game dance around trouble for an inning. Can I see if he can dance around trouble until he gets back to regular season form? However, maybe that's only 1 or 2, 3 games. Maybe I honestly wondered if Saturday night he could come out there and be like, oh, this is the regular season. I got to actually do this now. And his velocity would be back. Ronaldo Lopez, who started that game for Atlanta, had lowered velocity for the entire spring and then showed up to that game and his velocity was back just fine. So I'm not saying necessarily that I would have made the same choice, but I understand why when Matt Quatraro looks at his people and says, I want to show some faith in them. I want them to know that I'm not just going to immediately throw them under the bus. He says, I will give Carlos Estevez this chance.
Yeah.
And to that end, I think blowing that game was a good thing for the Royals.
Well, how so?
If Carlos Estevez dances around trouble, let's say that ball doesn't hit him in the foot, and apparently he was in a walking boot today. We don't know when he's even going to pitch again right now.
Right.
If that ball misses his foot, goes up the middle, Bobby Witt Jr. fields it, steps on second, throws to first, double play, game over. Carlos Estevez is closing again today. And do we honestly feel more comfortable about it today?
No.
If he does that, no, I don't think we do. So the fact that he blew it and he blew it in such spectacular fashion gave Q the cover he needed to say, Carlos, even if you're healthy, you can't pitch, you can't close the games until you get some of that velocity back.
Absolutely.
So I think, yes, the Royals lost Saturday, a game that they could have won, but I think it makes it more likely that they win games in the future that they could have lost while trying to wait for Estevez. They would have said, well, he got that first save, so yeah, he blew the second one, but we'll give him one more chance now because he did get that first one. We'll give him a third chance. And it might have taken a few more blown games before they were willing to make that switch.
Right. So but I feel like here's where the frustration is for Royals fans is, and we, like the Royals Review Twitter account tweeted this out, and it's the exact like summarization of it. Like, oh my goodness, only people without eyes couldn't have seen this coming. Like, this was an issue all spring with Carlos Estevez, lacking command, lacking control, lacking velocity. And go ahead.
I'm just telling you that Tuesday appearance is the nail in the coffin that was Saturday's game. If Carlos Estevez has more trouble in that Tuesday game, he's not closing Saturday. But because he struck out 3 and got out of that inning unscathed on Tuesday, that gave Quatraro had to look at him and go, I can't bench him without causing personal problems in the clubhouse. Carlos Estevez is a leader down there too, so you don't want to just, that's an addition, added pressure to not just yank him from his position of glory without really good cause.
Okay, fair enough. Well, now he certainly has good cause. And yes, what you were alluding to, Jeremy, so earlier on today, we did get a report from MLB.com's Annie Rogers saying that Estevez was in a walking boot this morning. He did take a line drive off the ankle that bounced towards the third base line, which got, another base runner on for the Braves and ultimately set up that loss. I will just summarize it like that. And we don't know when we're going to see him again. It was unlikely that he would be available on Sunday. The Royals do open up a series against the Minnesota Twins on Monday. He might be available after the team flies back home, but I'm a little perturbed by the fact that Quatraro would say, okay, we want to build him up in low leverage situations. Buddy, I'm sorry, that's what spring training is for.
Yeah,
is to be up.
This is where the cons of the WBC come in, and I think a part of this is honestly that the Dominican Republic was too good. I think Carlos Estevez would probably pitch more if the Dominican Republic hadn't shortened so many games by run ruling teams.
Maybe so.
You know me, I'm a big fan of the WBC now, and I want it to succeed, and I want everyone to participate, and I don't want to worry about guys who are participating. But I think there are special cases like Carlos Estevez where he needs that full spring training experience to get ready. You can't afford for him to go to the World Baseball Classic and not have the full spring training experience. I think that's just the way it is. I think it's valid to make exceptions for some guys and be like, listen, I do need you to stick around and get your work done here. I think that's a very rare scenario, but I think that in the end, it's probably how things should have gone with Carlos Estevez.
So, but here's where that sticks on my craw is that the Estevez we saw before the WBC and the Carlos Estevez we saw after the WBC were the exact same pitcher. Right. Guys can go outside of game situations and get their pitches in. Right. We saw that with Cole Reagans. He wanted to get up to 85 pitches, I think, in his last spring training or exhibition appearance. I can't remember which one it was. And he left the game early, but he went into the bullpen and got up to that 85 pitch mark to stay stretched out, to be able to get to that spot and ultimately be ready for opening day. Estevez can do that. Estevez can, go in front of a TrackMan with the WBC coaches and put up 25 pitches in a bullpen session and do that every other day. I think that's entirely reasonable.
But anyone will tell you that pitching a bullpen session, pitching in the backfield, pitching a side session is not the same thing as pitching in a competitive environment.
I mean, apparently pitching strikes in a competitive environment is impossible for this version of Carlos Estevez right now. A 40.7% zone rate against the Atlanta Braves, far, far behind his 55% mark in 2025.
All I want to say, I guess, I can't say that Estevez isn't cooked. He might be. I can't say that I would have made the choice that Quintero made on Saturday. I think I would have also been like, listen, Carlos, we both know you need to build up. This is not a permanent switch. I'm going to have other guys close the game for now. I think that's the choice I would have made, and I think he could have sold that. But I do feel like his choice wasn't completely unreasonable, and I think that Matt Quintero immediately came back and said, yeah, we're not doing that again. And the previous Royals manager would have had Estevez closing until the All-Star break still.
Correct. And I'm not, number one, I know that plenty of Royals fans out there have pitchforks out for manager Matt Quintero. I saw it on Royals Twitter, at Royals Rundown Pod. I saw it in our own replies over there. I don't have a pitchfork out for manager Matt Quintero because at the end of the day, he put a guy out there, sure, who is not optimal, who had red flags, but he put the guy in there in a situation to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy didn't perform. And that's okay. And he had a perfectly reasonable response today when, he was asked specifically about Carlos Estevez pitching in the ninth. It was, okay, we're going to have a buildup in low leverage situations. Okay, to me, that's 6th, 7th inning. Blowouts, you might have him pitch in the 9th inning, right?
The problem is you still got to find regular work for him, or you're going to end up with the same situation you had during spring training where he's just not working enough to finish getting built up.
Absolutely. Like we'll see how serious this ankle thing is. I know Rogers reported that the x-rays came back negative, so it's not like a broken ankle or, a chipped bone or anything like that. So we're probably not going to see him land on the IL. If it's something that is severely hampering him, we probably will see him land on the 15-day IL. But that is something where you want to say, do we want him to be off the team and out of action for more than 2 weeks?
See, you don't have to have him out of action for 2 weeks, though. You can put him on the injured list and have him immediately go on a rehab assignment.
That's fair.
And if he misses more than a couple of days, I think that's absolutely what they have to do for his own health. I don't even think that's gaming the system. I think that's, he was hurt. He wasn't pitching well before he was hurt. He needs to get built up. Go get built up.
Yeah, fair enough. But in the meantime, who is holding it down in the ninth? Well, Royals fans did get a glimpse at, I think, the three strongest options for that in the series finale. We got Matt Strahm, John Schreiber, and Lucas Erceg. Ultimately, Lucas Erceg earning his first save of the 2026 campaign. I think Erceg has looked a lot better right now than he was at the tail end of the 2025 season, so I feel confident about him holding down that closer role. And, it's not like he's entirely new to it. Like, he was the guy in 2024.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up his TJ stats stuff.
Yeah.
To see how the metrics compare. But yeah, I thought he looked pretty good today. He got a strikeout, made the hitter just kind of look like he didn't make him look foolish, but he made him look like he didn't have much of a chance, the first guy he faced. Then Mike Yastrzemski, who is off to a terrific start for Atlanta. Good for him. Got another hit. And then he got the double play, got out of it. And no harm, no foul. So I think Lucas Erceg is probably the closer. The question is, Matt Strahm and Lucas Erceg have now pitched to back-to-back days. Are we going to have them go 3 times in a row if we've got a close game tomorrow? Or are we going to see Nick Mears or John Schreiber or Alex Lang closing tomorrow?
Probably Alex Lang. Let's hope that does not happen.
Apparently, I just discovered this last week during the exhibition games. Alex Lang is known for wearing a turtleneck.
Yes, he is. A mock turtleneck, if you will. Very much Chipper Jones-esque.
Because he doesn't wear long sleeves. He's got a turtleneck neck with short sleeves, which is just the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. And I did not realize that he did that. And I was stunned when I saw that. I was just like, what is happening with this man's uniform?
To each their own, man. I wouldn't go out there like it, but it certainly does give him his own signature look.
Yeah, I mean, props to, I'm not criticizing him at all. I was just baffled because I've just never seen that before.
Well, all right. So on that note of being baffled, because, this is the opening of the 2026 season. We're seeing a lot of new things between ABS, between promotions, between these closer entrances and things like that. Something that absolutely baffled me in that Saturday game, with Fox broadcasting the game between the Royals and the Braves, is they had Chris Sale on for an in-game interview in the dugout. And to be frank, Michael Garcia got away with robbery, right? Like he turned a quote-unquote double play without even stepping on second base with his foot on the bag or with the ball in his hand, excuse me. And that would be like, what in the world happened? Like, why was that the call? But the thing that perturbed you, Jeremy, was how the broadcast responded to that moment.
So we've talked about this before, that I do not like in-game interviews. I have especially crusaded against the ones where the guy is on the field and you're interviewing him. That seems like a recipe for disaster to me. But even the dugout interviews seem like basically the worst way to conduct an interview and the worst way to watch a baseball game simultaneously. Like, you can't concentrate on either one sufficiently. The player is not really thinking about your questions, even if he's not playing that day, because he's watching what's happening on the field. And we saw that with Chris Sale, honestly. But this went to a whole new level when the broadcast booth, as you noticed, sorry, I got distracted by a message in the Slack, so I'm going to maybe repeat some of the things you just said.
Okay.
The broadcast booth noticed that Michael had not stepped on second base, and they were like, you should challenge that. They should challenge that. And they're on the call with Chris Sale in the dugout. That's cheating. Chris Sale, yeah. I don't think he said anything out loud to tell his team to challenge. His team ultimately couldn't challenge. And I don't think the booth, I was actually a really big fan of that booth, and I want to talk about that more at some point. But I don't think the booth was trying to cheat, but I think they weren't fully considering the impact of what they were saying, because and if that challenge had been able to be held, and it should have been held, I don't know why it wasn't. Apparently, perhaps Atlanta was too slow on asking for the challenge, but Michael clearly missed the bag.
Yes,
clearly.
Clearly.
So it should not have been an out. But if they had challenged it after the broadcast booth told Chris Sale to tell his team to challenge it, that would call into question the integrity of the game. And I think it calls into question the integrity of the game that this is a thing that could accidentally happen, almost accidentally happen. Because if it almost accidentally happened today, it could eventually actually happen. And people will tell me I'm overreacting and it didn't happen and don't worry about it. But this really bugs me that you have this thing that's not even that good. Not, again, it's the worst way to conduct an interview and the worst way to watch a baseball game simultaneously. And it can lead to competitive trouble. MLB needs to ban the in-game interview, I think. I just, there's no reason for it. Again, it adds nothing, it takes away, and it leads to this potential. And up to this point, I was mad about it, but I wasn't willing to shout, I can't believe MLB allows this. But now with the competitive issues, I can't believe MLB allows this.
Yeah, this would, if they had challenged it and if it had overturned that call, thanks to the broadcasters bringing that up, that would have been a massive issue.
And there would have been no way to know whether the broadcasters bringing it up mattered,
right,
if they had challenged it.
Yeah.
We would have no
Absolutely.
way of knowing. Even if Chris Hale doesn't say anything, maybe he does some kind of signal to the coaching staff. We just don't know. Or maybe someone else overhears it through his headphones. We don't know. And you just can't have that. You cannot have that possibility.
And you know what? Thankfully, I say this thankfully, Jeremy, because it didn't impact in the game. Now, first off, I'm sorry. Like that was one of those, that was one of those few moments as a Royals fan where you're just like, they should have challenged that. Like that shouldn't have gone the Royals' way. But it's more so how that would have originated is the issue, if that makes sense. Going back to the list that you sent over to me. Go ahead.
I think it's probably time for a break.
Gosh, see, look at you keeping me accountable. Yeah, we're 28 minutes in. Might want to take a break.
You want to tease something and then we'll go to the break?
I guess so. Well, I mean, the Orioles offense has been teasing us, especially after Sunday's game. We'll talk about them a little bit later on in the show. Stay tuned.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
All righty, y'all. Welcome back to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. Just a reminder, you can find us on social media. Our links are down in the podcast description below. So if you want to stay informed on the Royals, or if you just want to have some social media banter with us, go find us on Twitter or on Blue Sky.
And I will take this moment to remind everyone that during the games, you can most often find me posting through it on the Blue Sky, Royals Review Blue Sky account.
Yes.
I'll post some of the spicier takes that I don't want everyone else to have to take flack for, such as I think Jack Caglione's hair is the perfect length for him right now. That stuff will show up on my personal feed still, but I'll post about the game from the Royals Review Blue Sky account if you want to hang out with me during the game. And why don't you? I'm a delight.
Yes, you are, Jeremy. I can't say that as a noted co-host, I would say. I don't want to talk about the Royals bats just quite yet. I do want to talk about something positive. I want to talk about these last two starters, Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo, two shutout performances from the veterans. And heading into this series, I was most worried about Lugo. Like we haven't seen Lugo look right in quite some time, but this was like 2024 version of Seth Lugo getting it done on the mound. Michael Wacha just racking up the punch outs on the Braves. And just Estevez's performance really overshadowed what the starter did in that game, unfortunately. I feel better about the starting rotation now than I did a week ago, I would say. And that's a good spot to be at.
Yeah, entering the season, I was kind of looking at Seth Lugo as the fifth starter. If that's how my fifth starter is going to pitch, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I pulled up his TJ stats metrics for this start for last year and for 2024. And would you believe he pitched better than he did in 2024 today? He was getting more chase today than he got in 2024. When he was good in 24, he was getting a reasonable amount of chase, not a lot of whiffs. But when you're chasing and making contact, it's usually weak contact, which is more often than not going to work out for you as the pitcher. Last year, he wasn't getting any chase. And he was having a hard time getting the ball in the strike zone. He was hammering the strike zone, and when he wasn't in the strike zone, they were chasing it, and they were hitting it softly places. He did give up a couple of hard hit balls, but he kept them in the middle of the field, which works. Our field is notoriously hard to hit home runs out of. So those turned into flyouts. So yeah, I was super impressed with Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha. I know there had been some concern, at least from David Lesky. I can't remember if Craig Brown had talked about it, that his changeup didn't look very good during spring training. Looked perfectly good Saturday. I pulled up his metrics also. The changeup was doing the exact same stuff it did last year. So those two guys look primed to be solid, if not spectacular contributors in the rotation, and that's a really good sign. I know that Cole Reagans didn't have a great start Friday night. I want to attribute that to not trusting his footing after he stumbled in that pitch to Ozzie Albies in the first inning.
I concur, because it was an immediate shift.
It felt like his pitches became a lot more tentative from that point on. And of course, he'd only faced 2.5 batters before that. So how much the epitome of tiny sample size, but I really felt like he was able to attack the zone better for even those 2.5 batters until he kind of slipped there. So hopefully when he pitches the series finale against the Twins this week, it'll look better.
Yeah, well, hopefully so. Hopefully so. And yeah, we will get our first looks this upcoming week at two other lefties, Chris Bubich and Noah Cameron. Bubich should be starting that series opener against the Twins on Monday. Then Cameron will have it the following night. Yes, very, very excited for those two. Now, we got to talk about something that was probably the results were more realistic, but did not meet our optimism for this lineup. I will say,
I'm going to push back and say I don't think they were realistic necessarily, because the results match everything, but I think this is not how the rest of the season is going to go. I think it's going to get better, but I understand why people are panicking after 3 games, because those are the only 3 games they've seen.
You don't think Lane Thomas is gonna strike out 4 times across?
No, I mean he might, but I think he'll get some hits and some walks in there too.
Hopefully so. Who is there anyone that you're picking out for a negative reason right now?
Yeah,
in that lineup.
You know this. I gave this to you ahead of time. Isaac Collins is of extreme concern to me right now. So we entered the year, we said he's got extreme plate discipline. That gives him kind of a floor. Maybe he regresses a little, but we still think he can be playable. And then I was watching Saturday's game, and that I swear, excellent broadcast booth, that excellent Fox broadcast booth. And I've never liked AJ Pierzynski. And this is where I want to reiterate my booth. Gosh darn it. The thing where they work together. Where
the team, the booth team?
Not the team, but like, I don't know. Well, I'll figure it out eventually. But the way it is the way that it is their teamwork, but it's how they bounce off of each other. AJ Pierzynski with Adam Amin and Adam Wainwright is a very different AJ Pierzynski from what I've gotten used to over the years. And I thought even he was fantastic. But during the game, Adam Wainwright said, man, you just throw fastballs up to Isaac Collins. He can't catch up to those. And then now paying attention to that, it seemed to me that Atlanta threw him nothing but fastballs up for the rest of the day. And he struck out both times. And then I went on Baseball Savant this morning and I said, all right, let's see if this holds water or if this is just something Adam Wainwright said. And I looked up the numbers, and I've got them here somewhere. Let me see if I can grab them for you real quick.
Pull it from your tab farm that you have open over there.
Yeah, gosh. In the top third of the zone, so the top left, top middle, top right, and then the 2 out of the zone above those, the league is slashing 246, 257, 426, 683. So it's not an amazing slash line at the top. It's a below average slash line to pitch people up, which is interesting because you always hear you got to keep the ball down. But apparently if you pitch it up, they're not going to necessarily hit it. But Isaac Collins, on the other hand, is slashing 243 OPS.
Oh boy.
He's basically worthless at the top of the zone. And that's not just fastballs. That's all pitch types. You can throw him anything at the top of the zone and he's not going to hurt you.
That's
it doesn't
not a good
matter
look.
how good your plate discipline is. If they can just toss any old junk at the top of the zone and you're going to miss it, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
it is.
I have to believe that the Royals knew about this hole in his swing, even though all of us were unaware of it, because it's their job to know. And they've shown, I believe they've earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to knowing things when they trade for guys or sign guys under JJ Piccolo. And they don't do it just for the vibes. They do it based on statistics and scouting and all that good stuff. And they also, before they got him, hired Connor Dawson away from the Brewers, and he was very familiar with Isaac Collins, so he had to be aware of that. So the Royals had to know this was part of it. They must have thought they could do something about it. It hasn't worked in 2 games yet.
Nope.
Two whole games, Jacob. The world is ending.
Yes, it is. There's only 160 more to go, and or at that point, 160 more to go. Excuse me. Yeah, it's Collins has not been. I don't want to say the savior, because I don't think any Royals fan in their right mind expected Isaac Collins to be the savior of the Royals lineup. Like
I think there were probably a few. I thought he was going to be, I was counting on him to start, 140, 150 games and be good. That was over optimistic now, I think.
Well, yeah, we certainly haven't seen that. I think
wanted
that
him to
was
be the leadoff hitter.
True. I did have that in my mind for a good amount of the offseason. Then maybe what I should say is I don't think anyone was going into the season expecting Isaac Collins to carry the lineup on his back. I would say, like, that's superstar behavior, and we weren't expecting that from Collins. Now, I was expecting much more from him. I think that a couple of guys you can say have met expectations through their first couple of games in 2026, Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen. Like, those guys have looked solid. The 2 young players who a lot of people were saying if the Royals lineup wants to take that next step forward, a lot rides on these guys with less than a season of experience between the two. I think that they have looked solid so far through this first series against the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, Carter Jensen gets a little bit of a knock because he started against Chris Sale on Friday night. And that is one of the toughest lefties in the league. So I'm going to cut him some slack there. But he hit a home run today. A pretty big deal. Only 99.6 miles per hour off the bat. Come on, Carter.
Yeah, come on. Jeez Louise, Carter.
Put your torso into it. Let's go. Excuse me, but Jack Caglione is leading the team in OPS right now. He got opening day off, but he had a couple hits yesterday. He had a walk today. He's not been chasing that much, despite the fact that he did finish both of his final 2 at-bats today by chasing pitches outside the zone to ground out.
Yeah.
But overall, like, the chase has been workable. And he's been doing a good job of pulling the ball in the air. So, yeah, I mean, season's not over yet. He hasn't hit a home run yet. He needs to start doing that if he's going to get to my 35. But I'm ready. I fully believe that both of these guys are going to contribute. If you've got both of them, not having left field or second base doesn't hurt you as badly because you do have designated hitter in right field, and you didn't have any of those 4 positions last year.
No.
I have to believe that between Kyle Isbell, Starling Marte, Lane Thomas, and Isaac Collins, and Nick Lofton, I have to believe that they'll find a competent hitter out of that group. And then you only have 1 hole in the lineup, and you can play with 1 hole in your lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, kudos to Nick Lofton getting his first start today, scored 2 runs and had a hit, and looked solid there at second base.
I have to highlight that I called him out in the Royals review roundtable as the underrated X factor for the Royals this year. I look pretty smart 1 series into it.
1 start, 1 win. That's a pretty good ratio.
And
if
he's
you
got
ask
one
me.
of the 3. The Royals have 4 extra base hits, and he's got 1 of them.
Yep, that he does. Hey, looking back at ratios, another ratio that really went the Royals' way in this opening series was the ABS challenges, Jeremy. That was something that went the Royals' way. Salvador Perez trying to teach what the bottom of the strike zone looks like. And just as much as the Royals succeeded with their ABS challenges, the Atlanta Braves failed and showed how you do not want to deploy your ABS challenges, because that came back later on in games on Saturday and on Sunday to hurt them. Jeremy, what do you think about our first regular season look at the ABS system?
Got actually a handful of thoughts here.
Okay.
Should I start with the Royals-centric one or the
Yes,
baseball-centric one?
No,
all right,
Royals-centric.
I'll start Royals-centric. So the Royals have only made 4 challenges. Salvador Perez has challenged balls and strikes from behind the plate 4 times. 3 times, as you indicated, on Friday, and then once last night And the one he challenged last night was when he was trying to save Carlos Estevez's bacon. And he was like, that's ball 3 with the bases loaded. I'm going to challenge it because what the heck else are we going to do right now? And it turned out to be a strike. I don't think Salvi thought it was a strike. I think he was doing it out of desperation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
And it almost worked. Almost. He tried so hard. Yeah. But the problem is, if you're 4 for 4, you didn't challenge enough. The Royals have ended every game they've played so far this year with both of their challenges intact. And you should be challenging enough borderline calls that you lose some of your challenges. The particular one that comes to mind is Michael Garcia in the 9th inning today on a 3-0 pitch, had a fastball off the outer edge, which has been the bane of his existence, his entire career, basically. It was called a strike. It wasn't a strike. And he knew it wasn't a strike. He never swings at it. And it's never a strike. It's often called a strike. That was a prime moment to challenge. He didn't do it. Even if he was wrong, he should have challenged that pitch, because the opportunity to get a walk in the 9th inning, huge.
Yeah.
So you can't even say, well, it's early in the game. That was leverage, baby.
Yeah. That it was.
So the Royals need to be doing more ABS challenges. It's great and all, and it sounds nice to be perfect, but you need to be doing so many ABS challenges that you are losing some, because you're actually pushing the limits to try and get all the calls that you can. That's what the system is actually set up for, by the way, is not to get the balls and strikes called correctly. It's to encourage a team to get good at getting balls and strikes called for them.
Correct.
It's more gamesmanship, less getting things right. I will say, having watched baseball since Wednesday, I have decided I do like the challenge system more than just having the robot call balls and strikes. I think that is better, because what I don't want is these ticky-tack calls where, like, if it's touching the zone by a thread, I don't care if you call that a ball or a strike. You're right. Okay? You're right. I don't need the computer to fix that for me. Now, if the players challenge it, then you give it to them, and great, good job. You got a little bit lucky. Let's not lie.
Yeah.
But luck is part of the game too, right?
Yeah.
But the one change I would like to make is they currently have it set up so that every extra inning you enter without an ABS challenge, you get one. So if you've used them both, you get to the 10th inning, you get one. If you use that one, you get to the 11th inning, you get another, et cetera, et cetera. Start that process in the 9th inning. Start that process in the 9th inning, because I don't want a game to end on you didn't have any challenges left.
Yeah.
And if you used your challenge in the 9th inning and you were wrong, well, okay, what do you want me to do?
Right.
So
I think
that's
it's a good change.
One change I would like to see made to the system, having seen it in action for less than a week. It's already convinced me, and I shared a post on Blue Sky. I can't remember if I sent it to you directly, where Eugenio Suarez was at the plate and struck out, challenged it. Nope, that's a ball. Struck out again, challenged it. Nope, that's a ball. He grounded out, but it was the point of baseball, more than anything, more than winning, is to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And that Cincinnati crowd was entertained.
Yes, they were.
So it succeeds at entertaining. And that's the most important thing, is does it add to the entertainment factor? So I'm fully switched around. I'm on your side. The challenge system is better than just having the robot make the perfect call every time. But I do want to add a challenge in the 9th inning if you don't have any.
Yeah, I think that's a good change. And we're still in this unique moment where teams are still trying to feel out how to deploy their ABS challenges. Like, do you have strict parameters for your team? Do you have, like, okay, well, these 4 guys can challenge at any time, but you 5 guys don't challenge at any point? Things like that. And I think, Jeremy, what you're speaking about in those high leverage, in those late inning situations, speaks to that. And we kind of saw both ends of the spectrum. I would say the Atlanta squad was a little loosey-goosey, for lack of better terms, with their challenges, while the Royals had a high success rate, but they could have been more aggressive.
The funny thing is that I think Atlanta was actually kind of cowardly with their challenges too. There's a better word for that, but yeah, they challenged early on Saturday, and they lost both of them, but they weren't bad challenges. Those pitches were close, and I think that made them overly cautious today and cost them some calls earlier in today's game that they could have swung their way.
Yeah,
but we'll never know because they didn't challenge.
Exactly. So More to come on that ABS analysis. I'm sure we'll have some more thoughts as the season goes along, and we'll have some more in-depth looks at it over at royalsreview.com. So make sure you keep an eye on the site over there. Also, just a reminder, every single morning we have the rumblings, so you stay up to date on all things Royals. All right, Jeremy, why don't we go ahead and take our last break of the show, and we'll come back and close things out. Stay tuned.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
Welcome back to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. Just a reminder to follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to us at right now. We got plenty of listeners there on Apple Podcasts, but whether you're joining us on Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, anything like that, we greatly appreciate you being here, and make sure you stick around for the rest of our shows to come. All right, Jeremy, something that you wanted to touch on before we get on out of here is this bullpen. There's a lot of negatives to talk about with Estevez's meltdown on national TV Saturday evening. Outside of that, the relief corps has looked very solid so far in 2026. I know, John Schreiber did give up a home run later on in Sunday's game, but they held things down. Matt Strom and Lucas Erceg have looked very strong so far, but overall, I think this unit is exceeding expectations.
I got to tell you, first of all, Schreiber gave up a home run with a 4-run lead to one of the better young lefty hitters. I'm not going to lose sleep over that.
No one should.
That's a situation where you make the kid hit it. The kid hit it. Well, okay. When you make him hit it, I mean, that's what Carlos Estevez did Saturday. He said, I'm going to make Dom Smith hit this. I'm going to throw it right down the middle. And, well, Smith hit it. It happens. That's just how it goes sometimes. You don't win every matchup. The only other runs the bullpen has given up are Bailey Falter gave up 2 in 3 innings of relief Friday, but he had 2 really good innings of relief and then gave up the 2 in the 3rd inning of relief. I think Bailey Falter might be a weapon in that bullpen. I think we might have been sleeping on his relief possibilities. The frustration, the clash is going to be the Royals want to keep him stretched out as a potential spot starter, so that's why he's pitching a 3rd inning there. But I think he could be a guy, you give him just 2 innings, which is a really weird weapon because most guys are weapons for 1 inning or they're kind of whatever, you can eat some innings.
Yeah.
I think he could be a weapon for 2 innings.
Yeah.
And I would like to see him deployed that way going forward. But then, 8 strikeouts in 8 2/3 innings, pretty good stuff. 1 walk. That's the bullpen outside of Estevez is doing its job.
Yes.
And I wanted to just really quick, be like, yeah, we talk about Estevez. Everyone's thinking about Estevez, but he's one pitcher. And real quick, while I'm thinking about it, you had brought up that the Omaha roster was announced before last time. And I would just say that I hadn't looked at that roster beforehand, so I didn't have a good thought for it, but I looked at it since, and there are a lot of veterans on that team. A lot of veterans. Almost the I think I saw 18 of the 25 or 26 have major league experience, including all of the outfielders and, a lot of the pitching. So if Estevez does go on the injured list, if guys do not pitch well, I think I did mention this part, but I think it bears repeating. The Royals have guys they can call up that you have a reasonable hope of success for, that you're not going, well, maybe he'll figure it out. He's a young guy with good stuff. Maybe he'll figure out how to throw strikes. No, these guys have pitched in the big leagues and had various levels of success. So I think that's, when you look at how the bullpen is pitched outside of Estevez and you look at what they've got in Omaha, you have to feel like they're probably going to be okay. They've got some really solid depth.
Yeah. Yeah, that they do. And we still haven't in the season so far, I will say, we still haven't seen Nick Mears come out of that bullpen nor Daniel Lynch the fourth. So the
I
Royals do have a couple of fresh arms.
Yeah, and I'm really interested. I'm sure we'll see both of them tomorrow. And I'm really interested to see what Daniel Lynch looks like because I have no faith in him, but I also know his velocity was way up this spring training. And if he's going to bring some added velocity, which got him some strikeouts in spring training, if he's going to bring that to the bullpen in 2026, I'm going to have to walk back my dislike of Daniel Lynch the fourth also. I'm going to have to start getting really excited about this bullpen, Jacob.
That you will. That you will. But we'll stay tuned and see what happens against the Minnesota Twins. Royals having their home opener Monday evening against the Twins. You're getting your first look at 2025 All-Star Chris Bubich taking the start for the Royals. You said Simeon Woods Richardson should be starting for the Twins. Is that correct?
He's scheduled to pitch tomorrow. He's a really young guy with a really long name.
Yes.
He's got a lot of promise, but he has not lived up to that. And if I recall correctly, he was pitching in Omaha or pitching in AAA last year when Jack was there, and Jack took him deep. So that's something to watch tomorrow.
It is. It is. This is also going to be our first look at both the Royals visuals and the Royals performance after they moved those fences in. I know on social media, I think from Mark Pelos, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, of KCTV5, had the most recent look at the fences there in Kauffman Stadium. You know, we got to look at it last week, like when they just had the raw chain link fence up and stuff like that. This has a good look at, you know, what it looks like with padding, how that warning track looks, how the seating area looks. So make sure you go check out Royals Review on social media to get a good look at that.
Can I just say to that point, this weekend, because I live in North Carolina, I had to get the 7-day trial to Braves Vision so that I could watch the game, and that meant I had to watch the Atlanta feed.
Yeah.
Their broadcasters aren't bad. First of all, they have Jeff Francoeur and Peter Moylan on their staff. And boy, I wish those guys were on the Royals staff, especially Peter Moylan. Their director was doing, I thought, a really, really good job of choosing camera angles to provide visual interest in between pitches without ever missing any of the action. I noticed that, especially today. I noticed it some Friday. I was not paying as close attention Friday. I was very tired Friday.
Yeah.
But I know he's, you know, this was the first year that Atlanta's done their own in-house broadcasting. That gave me a little hope. You know, could the Royals not just have more tools and toys to play with, but could they have better direction? Not that I'm not trying to say that Bally Sports had bad direction, but it was not notable.
Yeah. Yeah, that portion.
If there's an opportunity to improve that, I think a lot of people won't notice it consciously, but they'll notice it subconsciously. And that can improve things. And I look forward to hopefully getting an improved broadcast experience tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you. And one of those new toys that you're talking about is the Royals are going to be one of two teams with both a wire cam and a drone cam to show action throughout in games. So that is going to be very exciting to watch.
The Diamondbacks are the other team that has that, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And the Royals president of business operations.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name. Colin Maxey?
I am as well. I think
Colin
that's
Maxey, I think.
But I took that.
He was with the
them.
Diamondbacks when they implemented all that stuff, so he's been able to bring that expertise over to the Royals as well. So I expect that to be done well. Swear the Guardians. I had to watch a Guardians feed at one point last year, and I swear they had a wire cam too. But I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game. But the wire cam looked really cool when I saw it in action.
Yeah, it does, and I can't wait to see how it looks there in Kauffman Stadium once we have that home opener. Also, speaking of broadcast, kudos to Eric Hosmer. He was on the horn Sunday afternoon.
I didn't get to listen, but
he brought what you expected in a recently retired player, but I want to say he exceeded my expectations in his presentation. Very engaging, very entertaining.
I saw some people saying in the game thread that they thought his sounded kind of lifeless. You didn't find that to be true?
No, I didn't think he was lifeless. He was definitely bringing, you know, he's not HUD, right? Like that's what it is. That's the bar that we have. And I personally, what HUD brings in dynamic, you know, just speaking, Hosmer balanced that out with insight into the modern game. I would say. Hosmer's still getting used to being in the booth for actual in-game action, and as he gets more comfortable, he'll feel some more birth to be more dynamic. That will come.
That makes sense.
But I liked him. For so far, so good. All right, Jeremy, what do you say we get to some reviews and get on out of here?
I reckon that makes sense. Why don't you go first? I'm going to make you go first. Haha.
Ooh, that is a bold choice, my friend. Okay, so my review, I have to pull it up so I don't get the author's name wrong. I just finished up a book the other day called Enshittification: Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse and What to Do About It by Cory Doctorow. So
Mhm.
if you ever tune into the Wednesday morning rumblings, I make it a priority to have several Substack articles in there, whether they're Royals related or not. Primarily, the sports related stuff will come from a Substack if I can. And in Shitification, this book came from a Substack article. It is still, it came out in October, still number one bestseller on Amazon in its category. So that kind of speaks to its lasting power. Excuse me. So the synopsis here is the author shows us where the enshittification comes from, not from iron laws of economics or the great forces of history, but specific policy choices made by powerful people in both business and politics who ignored every warning about the consequence of said choices. So it covers everything from like, hey, remember when appliances would outlast you in their life? Well, why don't they
Mhm.
do that anymore? Why are subscriptions so prevalent throughout services nowadays, and why is it so hard to cancel my Adobe?
Why
It's
can't you find what you're searching for on Google anymore?
Exactly. That was another specific touchstone.
Mhm.
So I listened to the audiobook. I looked up some of the figures in the PDF. Overall, I thought this was a very enlightening book. And if this is something that you're wanting to learn more about, not even passionate about, you're simply wanting to learn more about why things are nowadays on the internet and in life, I think enshittification is going to open your eyes to a lot of things. So I highly recommend it.
I haven't read the book, but I've read around the book, if that makes sense. I've read a lot of stuff that people have written in response to that book, including Ed Zitrone, who I highlighted once upon a time. Where's your Ed at? He writes a lot of good stuff about the shitification of the internet and the world at large.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's a good call out, Jacob. I like that a lot. So first of all, I want to say the word I was looking for was chemistry, booth chemistry.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So maybe I don't like Pierzynski on his own, but I like him with that booth, the chemistry, the reactions involved of putting those people together. And then the thing I want to review is a movie on Amazon Prime Video right now called The Wrecking Crew,
Okay.
which is very much in the vein of a 90s or early 2000s buddy cop film. It stars Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa. And what I love about this movie is that it has a sense of place and a sense of people. I feel like I criticize Netflix movies so much because I feel like they remove all the fudgy little details, all the little things that make something feel real. They smooth it out to make it feel apolitical and to make it appeal to a broader audience. And it's not just Netflix. A lot of places do this
Yeah.
where they're trying so hard. The MCU is sometimes very badly does this, where they try and just smooth things out so that there can be no pushback. And of course, that doesn't prevent pushback, but they keep doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I felt like there were still some rough edges in this movie. It's set in Hawaii. I can't remember if I already said that, but it's important. It's set in Hawaii and it deals with Hawaiian interests. There is a big part of the conflict of this movie is the Hawaiian nation and like what Hawaii was before it joined America and still holding on to ancestral lands and how someone might try to abuse that. And like that could be a politically charged topic. And it's set they don't, I won't say they take it head on, but they don't pretend that it doesn't exist. And setting it in that location and letting that happen gives that movie just a grounding that makes it feel real. It helps that Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa are fantastic actors, fantastic action actors, and it made me laugh out loud multiple times. I felt like the action direction was really good, especially for an American movie where like I could see what was happening. It wasn't jostling and cutting every half frame. And it's not a perfect film. Don't let me tell you that it's a perfect film. It's got flaws, it's got messiness to it. Kind of a big deal to me was that two of these supporting cast characters played by Miranda Baccarin and the guy who plays Peter Parker's best friend in the newer Spider-Man movies, whose name I have forgotten.
I have too.
They vanish for the final 20 minutes of the movie. They just disappear. They don't say, I'm going to go do this. They just stop. They're like part of the discussions about what's going to happen in the final showdown, and then they're just not there anymore. So it's not a perfect movie at all, but it's really freaking fun, man. And it fits in that niche that I think has almost vanished over the last 20 years since the MCU came into being. A mid-budget movie of like, this is not some tiny indie flick. This is not some massive blockbuster. We're going to spend some money on some action effects. We're going to spend some money on some actors, but we're not going to blow the budget out of the water and demand that this make $600 million. I feel it's not getting Amazon's not doing themselves any favors. They're not advertising it anywhere that I can see. But it was so much fun, and I hope more people will watch it because they set it up where it could have a sequel pretty easily. Like it was not, here's sequel bait. It was just like, yeah, not every string is tied up. Not every loose end is tied up. So you could do more with this. And I would love to see a sequel to that movie. I would love to see how the director, who was also the director for the Blue Beetle DCU movie, which didn't do awesome, but was again a flawed but fun movie, and did well enough that James Gunn said that it's still part of his DCEU.
Yeah.
So really, really good cast and crew, really solid effort. I would love to see what they could do with what they learned from this effort and do another one.
Excellent.
So that's The Wrecking Crew on Prime Video. Please go watch it for me. Please. I want more. Even if I don't get a sequel to this, I want more movies like this.
Yeah. That part.
And I want to shout out Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista for one of my biggest criticisms of The Rock is that he always puts on a perfect face, and he does so much CGI stuff now that his physical presence is worth nothing in the film.
Yeah.
And Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa's characters were both flawed in ways that grounded them and made them interesting. And they both were doing practical, and like their physicality was a thing that mattered to this movie. So that's taking advantage of the cast that you actually have instead of just being like, well, anybody could. I go back to Red One when The Rock was fighting Krampus, and it's like, well, anybody could look tiny next to Krampus. That doesn't mean anything to me when you CGI'd someone into existence like that. So yeah, there's so much cool. And if you're an action aficionado, you're gonna see some homages to some stuff in that movie, and you're gonna be like, I know what he's doing there, and you're gonna think it's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Love to hear that, Jeremy. Thank you for the review. Alrighty, folks, let's go and take us on out of here for today's edition of the Royals Rundown Podcast. We appreciate you sticking around with us. Once again, if you want to make sure you never miss another episode from us, make sure you follow or subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Good Pod, anywhere like that. Those are some good options to find us, but wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Royals Rundown Podcast. And most of all, make sure you go check out RoyalsReview.com for all the great work that comes out there every single day. I'm Jacob Milham, they're Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, go Royals.
Only collect organic, homegrown podcasts from my pod garden in the backyard.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
The sun's shining, birds are singing, and all feels right in the world.
Until the season changes, and suddenly you lose your motivation to get out of bed. In fact, 1 in 5 people experience some form of depression, no matter the season or time of year.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, our vision is to build a mentally healthy nation for all, because we want you to live your best life and be your best you all year round.
Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.